Nathan Reynolds stood at the edge of his palatial estate, briefcase in hand, having returned early from a business trip to surprise his wife of 5 years. At 42, Nathan had built Reynolds Tech from nothing but determination and brilliant ideas. The sprawling Beverly Hills mansion with its infinity pool overlooking the city was just one symbol of his success. "Victoria!" he called out, moving through the marble foyer. The house remained silent, except for faint laughter drifting from the backyard. Nathan moved toward the sound, passing through the gourmet kitchen where 2 champagne flutes sat half-empty. Beside an open bottle of Dom Perignon, his private reserve that Victoria knew was saved for special occasions. Feeling of unease crept up his spine. When he reached the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the pool area, Nathan froze. There, lounging on his custom Italian chaise, was a man he'd never seen before, tall, tanned, and wearing nothing but swim trunks. The stranger was sipping Nathan's 30-year-old scotch while scrolling through his phone, looking completely at home. Before Nathan could process this, Victoria appeared from the pool house wearing a bikini he'd never seen before. Her dark hair cascaded down her shoulders as she approached the man with a familiarity that twisted Nathan's stomach into knots. "Julian, darling, I've got the reservations confirmed for Cannes next weekend," she said, leaning down to kiss him. "Nathan's conference in Tokyo will give us the perfect opportunity." Nathan watched as the man, Julian, pulled Victoria onto his lap. "Perfect timing. My exhibition opens that Saturday. Your husband's workaholism has its benefits," Victoria laughed, a sound once precious to Nathan. "He's so obsessed with that company. Sometimes I wonder if he even remembers he has a wife." "His loss is my gain," Julian replied, his hands tracing Victoria's waist possessively. Nathan stood paralyzed, his mind racing through 5 years of marriage, the late nights Victoria claimed to spend at charity functions, the mysterious weekend retreats with her wellness group, the growing distance he'd attributed to his demanding schedule. The truth crashed over him like a tidal wave. Victoria hadn't married Nathan Reynolds, the ambitious entrepreneur she'd met at a tech conference. She'd married Nathan Reynolds, the millionaire, the status, the lifestyle. And now she was sharing that lifestyle with someone else in his home, using his money, drinking his champagne, while planning their getaways around his schedule. As Victoria and Julian continued their intimate conversation, completely oblivious to his presence, Nathan felt something break inside him. Not just his heart, but the illusion he'd been living in for years. Nathan placed his briefcase on the marble counter with a decisive thud. The sound reverberated through the space, causing Victoria and Julian to freeze mid-conversation. Victoria's eyes widened as she scrambled off Julian's lap. "Nathan, you're home early," she stammered, hastily adjusting her bikini. The panicked glance she shared with Julian spoke volumes. Evidently, Nathan replied, his voice steadier than he felt, walked calmly toward the pool area, maintaining a dignified posture despite the chaos erupting inside him. "Don't get up on my account. You both look quite comfortable." Julian stood awkwardly, extending his hand as if this were a business meeting. "Julian Mercer, I'm sleeping with my wife in my house, drinking my scotch, and planning a trip to Cannes with my money," Nathan finished for him. "I gathered that much." Victoria stepped between them, her expression morphing from shock to calculated charm. "Nathan, darling, this isn't what it looks like." Julian is just, "Please don't insult my intelligence." Victoria, Nathan, cut her off. I heard everything." Julian grabbed his shirt from the lounger, the movement revealing a designer watch on his wrist. One Nathan recognized because he'd bought the identical model for Victoria's birthday last year. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. "I should go," Julian muttered, avoiding eye contact. "Actually, stay," Nathan said, surprising them both. "This conversation concerns you too." He turned to Victoria. 5 years ago, you told me you loved me before the money, before the success. You said you'd be with me even if we lived in a studio apartment. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand fluttered to her throat. "I did love you, Nathan. Things just ... changed." "Did they? Or was it all a performance from the beginning?" Julian shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man, relationships are complicated. They're actually not. Nathan interrupted. Loyalty, honesty, respect, these aren't complicated concepts. Victoria's expression hardened. You were never here, Nathan. Always working, always absent. Somehow I managed not to betray you, Nathan replied evenly. He looked between them, these beautiful hollow people in his beautiful hollow house. In that moment, Nathan made his decision. I won't fight you, Victoria. No messy divorce, no public scandal. You wanted my wealth and status. Congratulations, you've had a good run. But I won't spend another minute in a marriage that's nothing but an illusion. As he turned to leave, Victoria grabbed his arm. Nathan, don't be hasty. We can work through this. Think about everything we've built. Nathan gently removed her hand. That's just it, Victoria. I built this. You just decorated. 6 months after the poolside confrontation, Nathan sat in his downtown penthouse reviewing quarterly reports. The divorce had been finalized with surprising efficiency. Victoria had accepted a generous settlement in exchange for a clean break. And discretion. The tabloids had speculated, of course, but Nathan's privacy remained largely intact. His phone buzzed with a text from his lawyer. Benjamin, thought you'd want to see this. V's new boyfriend is making headlines. Nathan opened the attached link to find Julian Mercer featured in an art world scandal. Apparently, the brilliant photographer had been passing off manipulated stock images as original work. Victoria stood. Beside him in the photo, diamonds glittering at her throat. Her smile strained as reporters swarmed. Nathan set down his phone without replying. The vindication he might have expected never materialized. He felt only a distant pity. More coffee, sir? Asked Rochelle, his housekeeper. Thank you, Nathan replied, suddenly realizing he'd been staring at the same spreadsheet for 20 minutes. And Rochelle, I've told you, it's just Nathan. She smiled warmly. Old habits. Your real estate agent called again about the Beverly Hills property. Nathan nodded. The mansion remained unsold. Too many memories lingered in its marble halls. Tell her to lower the price. Just want it gone. Later that evening, Nathan met his oldest friend Trevor for dinner at a small neighborhood restaurant they'd frequented. Before Nathan's success, you look better, Trevor observed, studying Nathan's face, less haunted. I feel better, Nathan admitted. The company's thriving. I've started the foundation. Things are ... simpler. Trevor raised an eyebrow. Simple isn't usually your style. Place. For instance, we could be at any 5-star restaurant in the city. Nathan glanced around at the unpretentious family-owned establishment. I'm rediscovering what matters. Victoria once told me I'd changed after making my millions. Perhaps she was right about that much. Don't let her gaslight you retrospectively, Trevor warned. You were always generous, just busier. True, but I did get caught up in appearances, acquisitions, the bigger house, the rarer wine, the more exclusive vacation spot. Nathan shook his head. What's the point of building an empire if it's filled with people who only want what you can give them? Trevor studied his friend thoughtfully. So what? Now, monk-like existence? Secret philanthropy? Nathan smiled slightly. Now I figure out what authentic actually means in business and life and relationships. Speaking of which, how's Diane? As Trevor launched into stories about his wife of 15 years and their teenage daughters, Nathan felt a pang of something like longing. Not for Victoria or what they'd had, but for something he'd never quite achieved. A connection built on something real. Outside the restaurant, autumn leaves swirled around them as they said their goodbyes. Nathan declined Trevor's offer of a ride, choosing instead to walk through the quiet neighborhood streets, anonymous and thoughtful under the evening sky. The winter charity gala wasn't Nathan's typical scene anymore. But the Children's Hospital Foundation was a cause he genuinely supported. He adjusted his bow tie, scanning the elegant ballroom filled with Chicago's elite. His company's recent relocation to the Midwest had been a fresh start, a deliberate step away from the Hollywood glamour that had defined his life with Victoria. Mr. Reynolds. The silent auction is closing in 15 minutes if you'd like to place final bids. Nathan turned to find a woman in a simple black dress holding a tablet. Her warm brown eyes and professional smile suggested she worked for the event. Of course, he replied, following her to the auction display. I'm Nathan, by the way. Just Nathan is fine. Olivia Bennett, she responded, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. I'm coordinating the auction tonight. As she guided him through the remaining items, Nathan was struck by her enthusiasm when describing each charity project. Unlike the practiced charm he'd grown accustomed to, her passion seemed authentic. You really care about this work, he observed. After placing several generous bids, Olivia nodded. I've been volunteering with the Children's Oncology Department for 6 years. These kids deserve everything we can give them. Their conversation flowed easily as the evening progressed. Nathan learned that Olivia was a pediatric occupational therapist who volunteered her evenings for the foundation. Patients with such genuine affection that Nathan found himself sharing more than he intended about his own childhood struggles before his business success. Wait, Olivia said suddenly, tilting her head. Reynolds, as in Reynolds Technology Solutions. You're that Nathan Reynolds? Nathan tensed, waiting for the familiar shift, the calculating look that appeared when people realized his net worth. Instead, Olivia groaned, covering her face. I've been talking your ear off about fundraising goals when you're probably the biggest donor here. I'm so embarrassed. Her reaction was so unexpected that Nathan laughed, a real laugh that surprised them both. Please don't be. It's refreshing to have a conversation that doesn't start with my bank account. Well, now I know why Mrs. Holcomb from the board practically shoved me in your direction, Olivia said, rolling her eyes. I thought she just wanted someone to make sure you bid generously. Did I? Nathan asked, amused. Olivia checked her tablet and raised an eyebrow. Though I'm not sure that painting of a sailboat is worth quite what you paid. It's for the kids, right? Nathan said, enjoying her candor. As the evening wound down, Nathan found himself reluctant to say goodbye. Would you like to get coffee sometime? To discuss the foundation, of course, he added quickly. Olivia considered him for a moment. I have a strict policy against dating donors, she said seriously, then broke into a smile. But I make exceptions. For coffee discussions about charitable initiatives, especially with people who grossly overpay for mediocre sailboat paintings. For the first time in over a year, Nathan felt something new and fragile bloom in his chest. Something that felt suspiciously like hope. Spring sunlight streamed through the windows of the modest lakefront cottage Nathan had purchased on the outskirts of Chicago. It was a far cry from his Beverly Hills mansion, smaller, older, with character rather than opulence. But as he watched Olivia arranging wildflowers on the porch, he couldn't imagine wanting anything more. Your board meeting is at 2, and don't forget dinner with the hospital administrators tonight, she called, catching his gaze and smiling. Their 6 months together had unfolded naturally. Coffee had led to dinner, weekend hikes, and eventually a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine connection. Olivia had insisted on paying her own way initially, unimpressed by his wealth and unwilling to be kept. It had taken time to convince her that his desire to share came from affection, not an attempt to buy her presence in his life. Nathan's phone buzzed, an email from his lawyer. Victoria and Julian's whirlwind romance had ended as dramatically as it began, with tabloid headlines and mutual accusations. She was reportedly dating a European prince now, still chasing the next rung on the social ladder. Everything okay? Olivia asked. Noticing his expression, Nathan set the phone aside. Apparently she's moved on to royalty. Now, Olivia sat beside him, taking his hand. Does it still hurt? Honestly. No, Nathan realized, somewhat surprised. It feels like another lifetime. They sat in comfortable silence, watching boats drift across the lake. Nathan's company continued to thrive under his leadership, but his approach had evolved. He worked smarter now, not longer. The foundation supporting children's healthcare had become his passion project. With Olivia's guidance helping direct resources where they were most needed, I had lunch with Trevor and Diane yesterday, Olivia mentioned. They're thinking about moving to Chicago too. Trevor hinted at that during our last call. Nathan replied, pleased at how naturally their lives had intertwined. Unlike Victoria, who had kept her world separate from his, Olivia had seamlessly integrated into all aspects of his life, professional, personal, and everything in between. Later that evening, as they walked along the lake shore after dinner, Nathan paused to watch the sunset, reflecting on the water. What are you thinking about? Olivia asked, squeezing his hand. How strange life is, Nathan replied thoughtfully. A year ago, I thought I'd lost everything that mattered when I found another man in my pool. Now I realize I hadn't yet found what truly matters. Olivia leaned against him. Their betrayal gave you freedom. Did, Nathan agreed, turning to face her. How? Which is why I wanted to ask you something here, now. He reached into his pocket and knelt on one knee, presenting a simple but elegant ring. This isn't about status or appearances. It's just about us. Olivia Bennett, will you marry me? Tears filled Olivia's eyes as she nodded. Yes, she whispered, but only if you promise me one thing. Anything, Nathan replied earnestly. Olivia's face broke into a mischievous smile. Our new house absolutely must have a pool. I have a story to tell our grandchildren someday about how their grandfather's life changed because of one. As Nathan rose to embrace her, laughter and love replacing old wounds, he silently thanked the betrayal that had ultimately led him to authentic happiness, proof that sometimes losing everything fake was the only way to gain everything real.